So you got your business degree.
I then completed the MBA, got my business degree, and I took a job with multinational company, well known, Colgate Palmolive,
No, yeah, we all know that, yeah.
in marketing. And my goal was to get into international marketing eventually. And I just stayed in marketing and moved from Colgate eventually and went into advertising through friends of mine and listening to them, and I enjoyed it very much, and I stayed with that company. I was working on a division of Coca-Cola, Minute Maid, orange juice, all the juices, Minute Maid and Snow Crop, High C drink. These were famous brands in the States.
In the States, and you work in the States all the time?
Oh, I'm in the States now,
Yeah.
permanently. And then I eventually left that and went to a very large advertising company, J. Walter Thompson. Now, a lot of this had been connections I had made through rugby or other ways, that through connections, social connections.
When you were in college, you played American football?
Oh, I played American football, yes, for 2 years.
Columbia, yeah?
At Columbia. Now that was a lot of publicity on that, and although I played a lot of Gaelic football and by this stage a fair amount of rugby, it was a very difficult game to pick up.
I was going to say that. Was it easy to make the transition?
No, it was a very difficult game to pick up. As a matter of fact, everybody was quite amused and that I'd try it, because I'd never had American football in my hand. Never mind, played it. And college football is a fairly good level. They take it quite serious, even the Ivy League now.
Oh, it's a very big business over there, isn't it?
Big business,
Big
yes.
business, yeah.
And in the Ivy League it was big, but very strictly amateur and very strictly governed. They didn't give out football scholarships in the Ivy League or any of that. They recruited guys, and if they were academically sound enough to get in, they got in and played football. But it made it tougher. But I went off then to first year to football camp. They did a month in the mountains in August before the school year started.
New season coming up.
Up to a place at, pardon?
A new season coming up.
A new season coming up, and you went up there for a month. And by God, did you get fit? It was 7 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening or 6 o'clock in the evening. Football and athletics and training. And American football, you know, it requires, even for guys who've played it, it requires an awful lot of attention and practice and detail. An awful amount, because there are plays. Every time you see them lining up and everything else, there's a set play called. And I had a playbook that was that thick. I think there were something like 40 or 50 plays, different plays for different situations in it, and all written up and drawn up. So that had to be all memorised.
And they were called then?
They were called, the quarterback calls them.
And you had to comply?
With the ball that you say, standing up behind.
Did you have much success?
I did actually.
Yeah. Did Columbia win anything? Or
the papers played puck with me, of course, because
Irish.
being an Irish lad and that kind of thing in the New York papers. And Columbia's, you know, one of their favourite schools. A lot of them were ex-Columbia guys. And they were graduates and ex-footballers. So they played puck with it. And it was great. Really, it was a great adventure, really.
So then you set up a rugby club?
And while I was there, off season, we didn't know what to do. You know, after an intense 4 or 5 months of this American football, 4 months of it, American football, and all of a sudden everything stopped. You didn't know what to do with yourself. Apart from the studying. The studying was always there, and it had to be done. There were hours of it. But it was the athletic side, physical side. So I had met a guy who was in admissions, actually. He was one of the assistant director of admissions. And he was an ex-Columbia man, college, and a footballer, keen footballer, good footballer. And I used to go over to his house and we were chatting and one day, let's get a hold of a few of these guys and we'll form a rugby club. He had started to play rugby with another club in White Plains, New York. And he said, oh, Christ, I have a few guys, a few grads, Columbia grads that'll play, that come to us. So we formed the Columbia University Rugby Club. And
Is it still there?
oh, it's still there.
Still there.
It's still an undergraduate club.
How long ago was that? When did you set it up?
1961, I think it was.
Oh, yes.
And
A historic occasion.
it was actually, it turned out to be, because it caught on. And you see, it wasn't, nobody demanded you. In football, it was regimented. It was 50 times worse than the army. 50 times worse. Everything. Your meals. When you eat, when you slept, everything was controlled. Whereas this was, you could hit and kick for the eggs. It was marvellous. And there was no we're not looking over your shoulder, controlling you and all of that kind of thing.
Bit of freedom.
All loads of freedom. And it's up to yourself to keep fit. So they loved it. And we got it going with 4 or 5 grads and then a few guys and a few English lads that were in graduate school at Columbia. And a couple of lads from the medical school. We got a team together anyway. And that was Columbia Rugby Club at that time.
Were there many teams in New York that time, were there?
There was a few, yeah.
A few around, yeah.
There was the Manhattan Rugby Club and the New York Rugby Club and the Westchester Rugby Club. And there was 3 or 4.
So you got a few games.
Oh, we got games, yeah. Oh, we no time. We played other colleges. We played, you know, University of Pennsylvania had a college, Princeton had one, all the Ivy League schools had them. And because they'd have the overseas students. And
So then you got involved with one outside the college, did you?
well, I sort of was coming to graduation then. And then when we went to, I think it was about when I went to graduate school, when I went to business school, we were having trouble, frankly, in the rugby club. The old bucks wouldn't make way for the young bucks coming up, and it became a game of personalities and all that kind of thing, and we had to decide to do something. So we made the Columbia Club an undergraduate club or a school club, and we formed the Old Blue Rugby Club, which is now very famous for graduates and their friends.
And it's still there too.
And oh, that's still there today, very big. They've won the national championships once or twice. And rugby is quite big in the States now, being all over the country. Not anything like American football, but big as an amateur sport.
So then you got into the real world of living and business and all that, and
I did. In
you travel a lot.
1964 I graduated with my MBA, and then I went to work in New York, Midtown New York, with an international company, Colgate Palmolive, And I had majored in marketing. I wanted to do marketing, international marketing, so I was in their marketing department. And after a while I got a bit of an offer and I decided to move, and I went to worked on a fairly new acquisition of the Coca-Cola company, which was the Minute Maid company, which was orange juices and fruit drinks. And I worked on that for an advertising agency. And it was part of the Interpublic group of advertising agencies. That's gone now, but it was a big group at the time. And then after that I left and went to J. Walter Thompson, which was the biggest single advertising agency in the world at the time. And I was there for 4 or 5 years, and then I went down to, they asked me would I go to Brazil. And I jumped at it and went down and to the company in São Paulo, and worked in São Paulo for 7 years in Brazil. And we had an office in Rio as well, so I used to be up down to Rio a fair bit. But it was mostly living in São Paulo, which is an enormous city.
Any sporting activity down there?
No, I didn't have time for sport at that stage. When you get into the career in the States, it's
Full time?
It's 15, 16 hours a day, and that's it. There isn't much time for anything else. And even for the single lads, there isn't much time.
And where'd you go after that then? Did you?
So, no, I stayed with Thompson for quite a number of years, and then I became, eventually became president in Brazil of the company. And we had both offices, São Paulo and Rio. And it was a big company, international standards, because it was a tough market. And I lived through the experiences of monetary correction and devaluation and hyperinflation. I mean, we talk about 10% here, how about 30-40% inflation? And trying to make a profit under those circumstances, it was...
Took a bit of creative accounting, did it?
No, it was hard work and difficult and long hours, and certainly you weren't overstaffed, you couldn't afford it. And as I say, you had the monetary correction every month or 2 months. And it was a very interesting experience, and Brazil was a very interesting country. I enjoyed it thoroughly. So then they offered, I was in Brazil, 7 years. And that's a bit long to stay in the one country if you're an international. So they offered me a job in Australia as chairman, chief executive of the company there. And we had offices in, I was living in Sydney, and we had an office in Melbourne as well. So I was up and down between Sydney, and I was supposedly in charge of New Zealand, but the Kiwis like their independence, and they didn't certainly like any Irishmen sort of looking over their shoulder, but I did it anyway.